So I am Robin.
I'm Tashama. Welcome to Legally Healthy.
Yeah.
We are lawyers by day and figuring life out by night.
So in this episode, we are going to talk generally about the process of egg freezing and our particular experience going through it.
Before we get further into this episode, while both Tashama and I are lawyers, we are not your lawyers. We are not providing legal advice in this episode. We are simply sharing our thoughts and ideas. If you would like or require legal advice or representation, please contact an attorney directly.
Also, while we may cover some health and wellness related topics, we are not doctors or psychologists. If you have medical questions, please consult your doctor. In addition, the content in this episode represents our opinions alone and not the opinions of any entity that we are employed by or associated with. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into this episode.
Yes, I love this topic. Now that we are on the other side of egg freezing. So now Robin and I have both undergone this whole process of egg freezing, start to finish. We're into the storage of our eggs phase. We feel like we're on the other side of it. And, looking back at this is interesting because when I first started thinking about getting this done and, trying to work with the practice, the physician, and really get through this process, it seems so overwhelming. It just seems so daunting. I'm really thankful now to be a couple of years later, sitting on the other side of this and successfully having my eggs in storage. So I did one round. I know you did multiple rounds.
I did 3 rounds, yeah.
Yeah. And so today we're going to talk to you about our experiences, which differed, and also tell you a little bit about what to expect, just generally, given the experiences that both Robin and I have had with this process and all of the rounds that we've collaboratively done together. So, yeah.
So, I guess, Tashama, why didn't you freeze your eggs?
Yeah, so I chose to freeze my eggs because I knew that I wanted to have another child. I have a beautiful daughter. I was a young mom, and I knew that I wanted to have another kid one day, at least one. And at the time of approaching my 40s, I was not yet married. I did not yet know who my spouse would be. So I wanted to preserve my ability to later come back and, go with my spouse to, go through this process of having a child. And, I just wanted to have eggs available to do that. I wanted my eggs to still be in their 30s, so to speak, even though I may be over 40 at the time. So I chose to freeze my eggs. And I chose to freeze my eggs over embryos because I definitely was only willing to freeze my eggs. I was not willing to combine my eggs with someone else's sperm that was not my spouse, and I was not married at the time. So that was my personal rationale. What about you? Why did you choose to freeze your eggs?
Right. So, well, it was something that I was interested in for a while. And then when I was 35, I ended up finding out that I had a little bit of an issue that made it somewhat urgent to do something about fertility preservation. So I kind of found out that it was sort of now or never if I wanted to have a child or keep the option to be able to have children later on in life. So, and at the time, I was actually in the process of I had just started a new law firm, founding a new law firm, and and it was just not a great time for me to start having kids. Plus, I was single at the time, and I
Same.
decided that it was just not a great time for me to have a child. So, I did. I ended up needing to go through the process of fertility preservation to keep the option open. And essentially, I went through a couple rounds to get the amount of eggs that I wanted. Which was a number that both my doctor and I came up with to figure out, roughly how many eggs I wanted to make me feel comfortable that I would be good to go in the future to have a baby. So that was why I froze my eggs. Tashama, I was actually surprised when I was doing it that it's definitely more than one doctor visit. It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
So, Tashama, can you give kind of a brief overview of what the process is like, or not what it's like, but just the steps of it.
So generally, it begins with, doing some research, finding a doctor / practice that you're going to work with. And you essentially, I did a consultation with the office and, just tried to talk with them generally about what they offered and what my goals were and, what the process would be. So it involves, connecting with a medical practice, a doctor that can perform the procedure and handle this whole process for you, like a fertility clinic or practice. So after you identify the doctor, you talk with the doctor and find out, if the procedure is something you're interested in. And then generally, I think that they will have you come in for a doctor visit / check to kind of see where your fertility stands at that moment in time. They'll conduct a number of tests, blood tests, ultrasounds, any testing that they think would be useful to ascertain, your sort of fertility situation in that moment. Because what we know is that fertility changes for women, and it can change drastically, quickly. So when I was at some point in, my middle 30s, kind of getting up towards 40, I went in and got the testing done and, discovered that I had a decent count of quite high. Kim was actually quite high. And then from there, they kind of recommend whatever the medical plan is going to be in the procedure. But you end up needing to go in for several visits leading up to the actual procedure. During those visits, you learn about the process and you get testing and you go in so that they can, my understanding is that they are, making a determination about when you're going to be ready for this collection. At some point you start to take hormone injections, which you generally administer to yourself or one. So they give you a kit, a supply of these medications. It seems very overwhelming, but they work with you to, make sure that you have the information that you need to self-administer these hormone injections. And they develop your hormones, is my understanding, up to the point where your body will be ready for the appropriate collection. What I recall is a series of doctor visits. And in fact, I think that at one point I was going into the doctor on a day-to-day basis, leading up to what would ultimately be the procedure of the surgical collection, which you have at a hospital. And you do go under anesthesia fully. So, I had several doctor visits. I remember traveling into the doctor's office on a schedule, them doing testing, blood draws, several ultrasounds. And again, it could depend on your situation. I am not a medical professional. I'm not a doctor. You will need to work with your physician to understand what's required, what they require, what they recommend, and what's needed. But what I recall from my personal experience was traveling into the doctor's office, and it was like a 30-minute drive on a regular schedule leading up. They were monitoring me, to see how I was tolerating the medications. And I think it was like all in all, that was like a 2-week process of getting there, meeting with them, understanding the process, starting the medications, going back for monitoring, getting ready for collection, and then ultimately leading up to the day of surgery. And in my case, they had a bit of a concern about not wanting to overstimulate my body, or overstimulate as they may call it. But they wanted to monitor me closely on these hormones. Then you're at the day of surgery and you go into the hospital or surgery center, you go fully under anesthesia. I remember the doctor coming in to talk to me very briefly, and ultimately they gave me the anesthesia and I woke up, which did not seem like any time had passed, but I'm assuming it was like an hour or something like that. And then I was released to go home that day. After that, I remember a pretty rough recovery period. Again, because of the egg count that I had, the recovery was particularly rough. My doctor warned me that this would happen. I was prepared. It was not pleasant, but my procedure was very successful and I only needed to have one round. But it was a recovery. There was no way I was returning to work the day after. And quite frankly, the week after. I was very bloated. It was rough for a few days. I'm not gonna lie. But in the end, I've got many eggs in storage from one round and I'm thankful. After the recovery is this ongoing storage of your eggs. And that is a monthly or annual, etc. fee that you pay for the ongoing storage of your eggs. And that's the procedure for me as I remember it. How about you? Was yours different? Was it similar? What was the case?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, it was definitely, I think generally speaking, it's a pretty similar procedure. I mean, first, you go in, I remember going in, to get initial, hormone testing done and like kind of check hormone levels and your egg count. And then after that, started injections. At least for me with injections, so you can do them yourself at home.
Which
I am like so scared of needles, so I ended up hiring someone to do my injections for me. I found out that actually in a lot of cities, there are companies that do have nurses on staff that will go to your home and give you injections. So I ended up doing that just because I just couldn't do that. I just couldn't.
It was not easy. I'm not a needle person at all.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought I was going to pass out from having to stick myself with the needle. And it's like often. It's not like you do it once a day. I think there's like a regime, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
There's a regime of like you're doing it in the morning
Yeah.
and at night. And then at one point, I think you might even do it like 3 times. Obviously, it's going to be determined by your doctor, but it wasn't just like you stick yourself once and you're done. It's like a daily thing, multiple times a day. So I definitely understand engaging someone. I just somehow I got the strength to do it.
Yeah. I know. What about you? Did you how'd you decide to date her? How'd you decide on your doctor?
Yeah. So I feel like my situation was interesting because I started with one doctor, and I was living at the end of the Bay Area at the time. And I started with the one doctor, and I met with her, and I went to her office in the Bay Area. We'll say I don't want to be specific, but it was fine. It was fine. It felt a little impersonal. She was, the doctor was a fine doctor. It was all good, but I didn't really feel. I don't know, something was missing for me with this particular doctor. And again, the doctor was fine. But at some point I ended up returning to Southern California where I had lived prior. And I ended up returning to live in Southern California, in fact. And when I got to Southern California, I literally called up this practice. And this doctor had impeccable credentials, had went to like Harvard and Yale or something like that. Yale and Harvard, yeah, the both of them. And basically, when I met the doctor, I just was like, this is the person. Like whatever it was about her just really connected with me. The office, connected with me, and the staff it just felt like I felt supported by this doctor. And it sounds strange, right? Because the doctor is your doctor. You're not supposed to have a relationship with them, but it just I felt a nerve that I didn't feel any other practice. And I just, went with my gut. And I'm glad that I did, because she got tremendous results for me. But not just that, it's an intimate process. It's a long process, and you're working with this doctor and their staff on a regular basis. And, you want to kind of feel like comfort with him, and that, you resonate with them in some way, I think. So that's how I chose the doctor. How about you?
So for me, it was, one, I knew that there was, there's a lot of visits involved with this. So I wanted to choose a doctor that was close by. Also, my particular doctor offered a payment plan, which, at least for me, especially since I ended up doing a few rounds, I really needed some financial help with this. So I would say, and I that actually is something I do recommend is shopping around for doctors.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
if there is a doctor that, works financially with you and is also in your area, it's definitely nice to have a doctor that's close by, because, you do go into the clinic quite a bit. But yeah.
Yeah. And so what did you do to prepare for the collection surgery?
So I guess I think so. I had a lot of questions about diet and supplements and making sure my body and my eggs are healthy. My doctor actually did tell me that there wasn't a specific diet that she recommends or a specific supplements that she recommends. I ended up doing a little bit of research on my own, and I found that the supplements CoQ10 and folic acid seem to be something that people recommended. I'm also not a health professional, so please, it definitely, definitely consult with your physician or, maybe a fertility nutritionist or something like that. I also found the one thing I also did like about these supplements was that they were in foods that seem to be recommended for fertility. So, for instance, CoQ10, which is an antioxidant, that is contained in a lot of fatty fishes, and fish that has omega-3 in it, and then also folic acid is commonly found in leafy greens, which are also recommended for fertility. So I did like that.
Yeah. And for me, I absolutely agree with you. Follow the doctor's instructions. That is precisely what I did. Whatever my doctor told me to take, I took. Whatever she told me not to take, I did not take. But in addition to that, I also made the unilateral decision to go off of all alcohol and all caffeine for several weeks leading up. I did not drink, and I love wine. Anybody that knows me, even if it's not alcoholic, but I love regular wine too. And I went off all alcohol for some weeks leading up to the procedure as a personal decision. And I also stopped drinking coffee entirely for a little while leading up to the procedure. So that was in consultation with my doctor, but she did not require it of me, but we thought it was great to do that. So that is what I did in addition to following all of her other advice and instructions. So absolutely consult with your doctor, but that's where our personal experiences were.
Right. And I think like Tashama said, I mean, after you go through before you go to your procedure, there is a period where you're doing the injections. We both talked a little bit about that. And I mean, definitely, if you are scared of needles, don't let this deter you.
If I can get through that, I'm telling you, I'm really afraid of needles.
Yeah.
I did manage to do it, but I think you can find more strength to do it. But it's also, if you are able to get someone to do it for you, then awesome. But I was able to get through it, even though I am not a needle person at all.
Yeah. And I mean, I think so the procedure itself, I mean, Tashama talked a little bit about it. I think the procedure is definitely I mean, they put you under anesthesia. For me, it was a little bit scary because I'd never been knocked out like that before. So
and you did it 3 times.
Yeah, so that was a little bit.
Kudos.
It was scary. Like for me, it's just the thought of it was a little scary.
Same.
But I mean, to be honest, it's like the best nap we've ever taken. So once you wake up, I'm just like, wow, it's got some really good sleep there. But I think, and then, I mean, recovery, I did find that I think my doctor had to push my uterus around a little bit because one of my ovaries is actually like just how my body is. It's kind of tucked under my uterus. So I definitely was a little bit less mobile for a little while, like probably about a week after. And I think I definitely tell you not to do any vigorous exercise for a couple weeks after. And I definitely found that to be true. It is, you are recovering from surgery, and I think I would definitely take a few days off from work right after your procedure, and just plan to be a little bit less, I guess, like less active for maybe about 2 weeks after.
I would agree. And everybody's body is different.
Yes.
And people respond differently, as we know. But I definitely was not well for a good week and a half.
Yeah.
But again, my doctor had warned me because of the high number of eggs that I was able to get with the one round. She warned me. She said it's going to be rough for a few days. And in fact, and it's interesting because it kind of validates my decision to go with this doctor, because she prepared me so well. And then also, even after the procedure, she called me on the phone to check on me, personally called me on the phone to check on me, to see how I was doing and, talk with me. And yeah, I felt safe with her. And even though I was unwell, we're to be honest, I kind of knew what to expect. And, I felt some comfort in that. So yeah, I think it's wise to allow yourself time to recover and heal, days after the procedure, a week and a half, if you can, 2 weeks, and just understand that the body is different. People and their bodies will respond differently.
Yes, very true. So we do have, so Tashama did mention, ongoing storage,
Yes.
So in addition to the actual cost of the procedure, the storage fees associated with that's
Ongoing.
And we actually do have another episode about costs, and we do dive into storage fees. We also have another episode about freezing your eggs versus freezing embryos and how to make that decision.
And also ongoing storage related to those things.
Yeah.
So please check out our other videos. We think you will find the content very useful.
Yep. And if you liked this episode, please like and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Please stay happy and healthy.
Thank you for joining us at Legally Healthy Podcast. We appreciate you joining us today.
Bye.